Welcome to Beyond the Platform, Sigma360's exclusive interview series where we explore innovation in risk screening and compliance. I'm Bernice Chan, Product Marketing Lead at Sigma360, and today we'll be discussing what truly sets successful compliance implementations apart, a tailored white glove onboarding approach. So I'm joined by Pete, our Director of Account Management, and Ellis, our Client and Partner Solutions Associate, who both bring deep expertise in compliance implementation. Pete and Ellis will walk us through real customer success stories and share what clients appreciate the most about working with Sigma360. So without further ado, let's get started. Pete and Ellis, could you tell me what happens when someone signs up with Sigma360?
Sure. Thanks, Bernice. I will take that question. Once a customer signs with Sigma360, we kick off the onboarding process by aligning on their core use cases, risk tolerance, technical requirements. We often gather details about their current workflow, risk appetite, any integration needs, and any other relevant entity types that they'd be looking for, like individuals, corporations, vessels. From there, Pete and I like to establish an onboarding cadence tailored to the client's goals and timelines. So internally, we ensure a strong and seamless handoff, typically between our sales and the client and partner solutions team. And we both understand just how important that transition is. And so we want to make sure the client is felt heard right from the beginning, know the action is already being taken. And that's why we always start off by confirming some of these just key details and setting expectations clearly to build the momentum early to set the relationship up for success.
Great. So that sounds pretty comprehensive. Then moving on, can you walk us through a typical implementation timeline then? How long does it usually take for customers to be onboarded at Sigma360?
Thanks, Bernice. This is a difficult question to answer just because use cases are all very different. The byline that we like to use here is that we never want to be, holding up any implementation, right? So if we're talking about like as fast as possible, a complex integration can take as little as 2 weeks. A pretty more simple, single workflow implementation we've had in like one meeting. But I'd say a more, complex onboarding will take around 4 to 12 weeks. And then sometimes a, more simple implementation will take 1 or 2 meetings or more, obviously pending requirements and ensuring that we're not trying to just pass people off and run through it as quick as possible. So there's been a few points to highlight here that help with that like speed and efficiency. The first is we have a cloud-based platform, so things like accessing the tool is fairly easy. That could take 2 minutes. Minimal or zero build out. There are bespoke implementations where there are features that are built from a security perspective or bespoke features on an instance of the platform, but overall typically there's nothing, so no waiting or consulting on any of that. And then there's been a lot of care taken to make this whole process very nimble. Things like role-based access control, default settings, leveraging existing settings, trainings, workflows that Ellis and I have taken other clients through. Those all sort of contribute to making meetings really efficient and the overall timeline pretty short, we feel like.
That makes sense. So I'm sure that our listeners are also curious. How does Sigma360 support the customer throughout this process then?
I think that mostly a lot of our support comes from the weekly onboarding calls, async check-ins as needed, really just the tailored training sessions for any of the admins or end users is key. We have something that I would consider like a tuning sprint. We will do some filter set tunings and then make sure that we're checking in with the clients, seeing what their data returns are. We also have a full access to video training libraries, guided walkthroughs that is super helpful for some async training. Of course, there's always help with any data uploads. We do back-end testing, Q&A sessions. The sky's really the limit when you're looking at support with customers through this process.
Thank you. That was really insightful. So now let's shift gears and talk about different thing, real customer stories. Can you walk us through a recent customer success story that you remember?
We have two that come to mind. The first is a compliance tool or platform where Sigma is powering a sort of major product area that they sell on to customers. It was quite a complex integration, a lot of data that needs to be piped through, and we were able to take them live in under 2 weeks. That was a sort of a record for us. What that looked like was, meetings 3 times a week to fit that timeline that they were looking for. And they're really happy and sort of came to us with, knowing what they wanted. And now that relationship is off to a great start. The other one was another fairly recent onboarding of a client of ours that is a buyer and reseller of businesses, where they then white label products, sell them over e-commerce as well as brick and mortar. They're always adding vendors and clients and suppliers sort of across the globe. And we are able to handle all of those jurisdictional differences and aggregate the data sources that sort of make it easy to feel confident in their tools and their processes. And they said something that we were really excited about to share with the company. And they said, when we asked, how's everything going and how is it working? Our point of contact said, Sigma just works, and was really excited and has had some, struggles in the past and didn't feel like that was typical. So that was one we were really excited about, like Sigma just works, and really, I think, distills down what we've been trying to do and the types of, product and improvements that we've been trying to make. I think that summed it up nicely.
Well, it definitely sounds like our customers are quite happy with us. Sigma just works, right? On that, I'd like to know a little more about how our white glove approach helped improve the customer journey then.
Yeah, so when we say white glove approach, we also, would frame it as a partnership approach. We've heard from customers that a lot of times, using legacy providers, it's hard to get somebody on the phone. It's really hard or expensive or both to change things like the way the data is structured, bespoke reports. And so when we, talk about a white glove approach, that's usually sort of earlier on, moving into a partnership approach. That's, going above and beyond, we feel like, to sort of address any need holistically, and sort of getting out of that rigid framework. So that's, another review and new reports in before an audit that might be happening, in 10 days time. That's, happened actually quite commonly. That's, rigorously going over workflows and making sure, trying to remove clicks and trying to improve clarity across the platform. It's meeting them where they are, and using them to improve our platform and the sort of the way we do business and the way we service their needs. That I think, again, sets us apart. It's part of the work that Ellis and I are really proud of. And we, feel like we're living it, investing in customer success and being, customer obsessed in the way that we move forward.
Thank you for that. So, Ellis, I'd also love to get your perspective on this as well. How do you think our onboarding process is different from legacy systems or, say, competitors in the market?
That's a great question, Bernice. Mostly our clients consistently, I think, appreciate that we move at their pace. Whether they're a large institution with multiple stakeholders, a lean team of 1 or 2 juggling competing priorities internally, we tailor the onboarding cadence to meet their needs. And we do take pride in partnering closely with our clients and delivering just that, delivering based on, I guess, what matters most to them, whether it's fast go live, deep integration support, or just strategic alignment on risk tolerance and workflows. And that's really what sets, I think, Pete and I apart from legacy systems, is how proactive in communication and how much we communicate. Clients value that we reach out early and often and stay ahead of issues, avoid surprises. All of these things are just crucial for a strong relationship. And so our goal is always from the very beginning to feel like they're in good hands.
Well, speaking of differentiation, then, I'm also really curious about what our customer success looks like in the long term. How does Sigma360 ensure continued client success after onboarding?
I'll also take that one, Bernice. So Pete and I, our support doesn't stop after implementation. We stay closely aligned with our clients through ongoing check-ins. We have usage reviews, strategic alignment sessions. We do monitor the platform for adoption, help tune risk parameters as needed as potentially clients evolve. Obviously, Sigma360 does evolve to just make sure that all of our clients are getting meaningful value from the tool. We keep the clients looped in on product roadmap, any changes, so they're aware of upcoming features. And then we can also provide any input of their evolving priorities, because we understand that sometimes businesses can change and priorities can change. The law can change, regulations can change. And so it's really a long-term partnership and not just a handoff.
Well, I'm sure that one other thing that's really important to customers is that they see your faces often. So what regular check-ins or reviews are in place to maintain engagement between you and the customers?
We have a pretty robust quarterly data review cadence with clients, where it is really important to continue to meet them where they are, engage on things like usage, new features, and struggles or successes that they're encountering. And that really does, like, that whole cycle happening every few months, that then shapes our product roadmap. Right, we sort of take an approach where if we're seeing a problem with one client, but right, our platform is quite complex just by the nature of being a data aggregator. If one client's highlighting something, it's likely that many or all of our customers could benefit from this approach. Right, we use that as like a gold mine of our product direction. Right, so a lot of a QDR is spent talking about challenges, what can be improved upon, and then it's understanding their business needs and trying to be proactive on that approach as well. Right, is there a new workflow that needs to be developed? Is there frequently is there a new team that can benefit from Sigma? Right, that is delivering value on the client side, and obviously driving value to us personally as well, just to grow the scope and deliver value frequently for the same size contract. And so that's where we take all of this in the QDR, and that's how we sort of frame it in a way that's sort of mutually beneficial.
Of course. So moving on, I'd like to hear a little bit more. How does Sigma360 help clients expand their use cases then? Since I know that there's always changes coming up in this really fast-paced industry.
Yeah, I will answer that one. Um, so we frequently uncover what we would consider adjacent opportunities through regular check-ins and quarterly data reviews. So for example, a client who initially engages with us for sanctions, screenings, maybe later expands the use of Sigma360 on third-party risk, investor due diligence, or something along the lines of that. And we support that growth by helping them prioritize what is most impactful, and by building phased adoption plans after the implementation to align with their internal capacity and goals. We also know that players shift around in companies, and so retraining on either use cases or just retraining in general is always something that's on the table with Sigma. And it's about meeting them honestly where they are and scaling together.
That sounds great. Flexibility is always something that's really important. And that actually leads me to the last portion of our interview. How does Sigma360 incorporate client feedback then into product development?
So what we do is we typically will maintain a very consistent feedback loop between our team and product and engineering. So all client feedback is logged, tracked, and prioritized based on urgency and impact. And any bugs, which are very rare, feedback loops are maintained for that overarching improvement and request.
Got it. So then in the compliance scene, we know that there's always a lot of updating industry trends and regulatory changes that might apply at any given time. So how does Sigma360 make sure that we stay ahead of these changes?
I mean, we have a, leadership team that has background in treasury as well as, long-term compliance work at several banks amongst the staff. And so, part of that is, being contributing as thought leaders in the space, as well as being up to date on things like the political environment or, challenges, trends among, banks and other compliance, public facing compliance, issues that occur. And so on top of that, we've also been building our, data lake from the ground up for, a very long time now, right? So we'll get questions from clients like, can you confirm that you have this and this and this source? And, frequently, increasingly, we don't have to add sources. We have, niche sources, which is always kind of fun to see and be able to say, yeah, we have that and we can prove it. But yeah, it's just sort of, I think, in terms of staying ahead of industry trends and staying on top of regulatory changes, it's having the mentality of ruthlessly improving, ruthlessly trying to cover up for any, shortcomings, before they become, popular or otherwise, problematic. And we, thankfully have not had any, client impacts up to this point where there's been, major gaps that we've, needed to cover up or fix after the fact. So it's just about, staying on top of everything. And, we have a very transparent culture within that where we can see all of these changes and data being added as it's needed.
Awesome. So finally, just to bring everything together, if you had to boil it down to one thing, what's the single most important factor that separates Sigma360's approach from other compliance solutions in the market?
I would say, though, the main, the differentiators that I've seen validated across our client base and the market, as well as sort of personally what we believe is the most important, I think, would be the configurability, how easy it is to configure our data and workflows to a certain challenge or, each bespoke client's needs. Data coverage, I think it's as good or better than anyone out there in the market. And then I think it's our partnership approach, where we, frequently every day, every week are meeting clients where they are and, finding a way to get them what they need, even if that's different, even if that's one-off, or even if that's, seemingly quite challenging. So those three, I think, contribute to sort of what we're most proud of in a, service and client-facing impact.
Well, that's definitely a takeaway of all time. So that wraps up today's deep dive into what makes compliance implementation truly successful. Thank you to Pete and Ellis. You have shown us that it's not just about the technology. It's really about having a partner who understands your unique risk landscape and also moves at your pace. If your business is ready to move beyond rigid compliance solutions and experience the Sigma360 difference firsthand, visit us at sigma360.com to schedule a demo. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn for more insights from our Beyond the Platform series, where we'll continue exploring the future of risk screening. Thank you.